X-ray specs for inquisitive people. An optician has constructed X-ray specs for everyone's use. This device, if possessed of the penetrating power claimed for it, will make concealment outside of the metal walls a farcical effort. The most hidden secrets of physical imperfections, no matter how carefully guarded beneath linen, wool and silk, will be exposed as clearly to the gaze of the X-ray fiend, as if exhibited before a magnifying glass. Walls of brick and stone will become as transparent as glass, and as a result, to secure privacy in hotels, boarding houses and other buildings, the walls must have a metallic lining of iron, steel, tin or zinc. Without such eye-proof lining, the occupants of a room would have no protection against the prying eyes of the curious supplied with X-ray glasses. Suppose for an instant that a man in a hotel should have his curiosity excited as to what was going on in the adjoining room. All he would have to do would be to adjust to his eyes his X-ray glasses, turn on the current of his pocket battery, when the walls would virtually melt away, revealing all as clear as day. With this device in general use, it will be necessary to have all public buildings eye-proof as fireproof. It has been suggested that modern women shield themselves by wearing a bodice and skirt of aluminium that would be as light in weight as clothes and so durable as to last a lifetime. Some such protection would be indispensable, for it easily to be imagined how horrifying it would be to a lady on the street to find that she was being ogled by an X-ray fiend. The theatrograph. St. Paul's. In St. Paul, an ingenious device, the theatrograph, has recently been exhibited at the Grand by an Englishman. The theatrograph is an all intents and purposes a powerful stereopticon provided with a series of wheels over which is passed a spool of films or pictures taken of the same scene at infinitely short intervals. By this means a continuous action is projected on the screen, whereon the scene appears as real and animated as life. The theatrograph, in short, is an English adaptation, more or less perfect, of an American invention, the Vitascope. The Vitascope. The Vitascope is a device logically following upon the kinetoscope for exhibiting upon a large screen a series of practically continuous pictures, the result to the eye being that of a person or scene in motion. The Vitascope has been called an improvised kinetoscope. It is more than that. It is a kinetoscope enormously enlarged, showing its subject in the desired colour. As a matter of fact, the latter instrument was never considered seriously by its inventor Edison, but only as a paving the way for a more perfect instrument he had in mind, and which he later perfected appropriately, named the Vitascope, meaning literally the exhibition of life. The machine as it now stands differs materially from the original model of the inventor, which cost months of labour and an expenditure of about $20,000. In the discarded model, he had used a shutter in the principle of the one employed in the kinetoscope, but it gave blurring effects which of course were unsatisfactory. In the later model, he dispensed with a shutter and secured the effects he desired by the use of lenses and an arc light. The Vitascope, as finally completed and put into public operation, notably upon the vaudeville stage, consists as its mechanism of a small lens such as is in used as in small camera. This lens is nearest the exhibition screen. Just behind it is a metal frame about 1.5 inches square, over which the picture to be reproduced passes. Behind this is large lens, and just back of this lens is an arc light of the 2000 watt candle power. The pictures reproduced have been previously photographed on kinetoscope films are in size about as large as one's fingernail. The films as prepared for scenic reproduction are each 50 feet in length and contain several hundred pictures that go to take up a panorama. In use, the film passes over a series of wheels at a very rapid rate, propelled by electric power, and as a picture passes the frame behind the small lens above mentioned, the light from the arc lamp passing through the lens and being focused upon it throws the picture through the smaller lens upon the screen magnified 600 times. In this manner, the miniature picture taken by the kinetoscope is reproduced life-size or larger with every minute detail of life and action on the screen. In the operation of the machine, the problem of how to prevent the film from being melted by the focus light from the arc lamp, which is intense, has been solved by suspending a magnet before the frame over which the film passes. Close to this magnet is a small dynamo. When the current is turned into the vitoscope and its wheels carrying the film are set in motion, the magnet is drawn toward the dynamo so that the light may strike the moving lens and send its picture through the smaller lens. The film being at this time in motion, of course it is not in danger of being melted. When the current is turned off, the magnet falls from the dynamo again to its former place in front of the film, resuming its protective function. What to many is a most suppressing feature of the vitoscope is that it throws in the pictures exhibited any and all colours upon the screen, but the explanation of this is quite simple. The colours are not obtained by any photographic process. The film produced by the kinetograph is in monochrome. They are painted on the films later by hand, in such a way that the cover will not rub off as the film passes over the wheels of the vitoscope. In subsequent machines it is designed to increase the size of the film to something like 500 feet for the purpose of displaying such scenes as Niagara Falls, an ocean steamer leaving port, and other pictorial subjects. The cinematograph. The cinematograph consists of a box 8 inch by 10 inch by 4 containing a series of wheels upon which the band about 18 yards long of photographic films is rapidly wound round a set of 5 magnifying lenses. Each photograph is not larger than a postage stamp, and a powerful light reflects them on a white screen in such rapid succession as to reproduce all the infinite and varied movements of nature. The film is made of celluloid and gelatine, and so thin that it easily rolls up into a box of 3 inches in diameter. The lenses magnify the tiny pictures as to cover a space of the stage 14 by 18 foot. The pictures themselves are taken at the rate of about 45 in a second, so that no movement, however rapidly, can escape them. 45 a second. Wow, we have hope for bald heads. Discoveries in connection with the X-ray are hustling right along. First came the X-ray itself. Then the experimenters with it found that it was injurious to the hair after persistent exposure. Now it is discovered that a moderate exposure stimulates the growth of the hair, while the heads that were made bald are being covered with a thicker growth of new hair. So it appears there is hope, after all, for the incorrigible bald head. H.D. Hawkes of Tarrytown says that hair began to grow in his case in about 9 weeks from the time it fell out, and that it came in thicker than it was before. He thinks that working around the X-ray tubes encourages the growth of hair. In the action is not prolonged too much, and this beneficial result, he says, may be due to the presence of electricity under high tension, referring to the similar effect of static electricity. The action of the ray upon the skin takes longer to dissipate, but gradually the effects disappear. Mr. Hawkes ventures a hope that the use of the X-ray may be valuable in some skin diseases. The X-ray as a cosmetic. Women will be more interested in the X-ray than ever when they learn that it has wonderful cosmetic qualities, which Mr. Edison himself has tested and verified. Mr. Edison and Mr. Elihu Thomson have been experimenting to learn about the curious burns that have resulted in many cases from the application of the X-rays, and they state that these burns heal rapidly, leaving the skin much softer and whiter than it was in the first place. The X-ray burn really serves to remove the outer covering of the skin and allow a new and therefore whiter and purer skin to grow in its place. The X-ray may be compared to an exaggerated case of sunburn. It is in reality a cross between a regular scald and a scorch. The X-ray simply removes the outer circle. In order to understand this action, the tube must be considered as a miniature battery, which discharges millions of minutes of rays of immense penetrating power. When the X-ray strikes the skin, these little projectiles strike upon the flesh like so many little hammers. A few minutes of such bombardment serves to destroy the outer cuticle and expose a red inflamed surface. If the skin is exposed to a hot fire, it will of course be blistered, but the wound from a scald or burn goes deeper into the flesh and consequently on healing leaves a scar. The X-ray is merely the most refined way of burning in the world.